Hello. The twist didn't come like a bombshell. It came in pieces. Slow, deliberate. A puzzle I didn't even realize I was solving until the picture was nearly complete. I'd been collecting the evidence, building the file, stacking it higher with every charge she racked up on our card and every hotel stay she didn't bother to hide anymore. But it wasn't until I saw a name, just a simple, familiar name, that the real weight of everything hit me all over again. I was at Ron's kitchen table, going through the latest round of screenshots and statements I'd printed out at work. My eyes were sore, my back stiff from hunching over, but I couldn't stop. It had become a ritual, this quiet unraveling, a kind of emotional autopsy on the corpse of our marriage. That's when I saw it. A name on a digital invoice from some restaurant in Albany, Gregory A. Maddox. The full name. Not just Greg, and something about it twisted in my gut like a knife that had been waiting there this whole time, buried deep and suddenly sharp. Because I knew that name. Not from our town, not from work, but from Carla's past. From the photo album she used to keep tucked in the closet before digital killed the charm. From the stories she used to tell when we were still honest with each other. Greg Maddox was the Greg. High school Greg. First love Greg. The one she used to talk about with a funny little smirk. The one she claimed had ruined all other guys for her for years. The one she swore she had blocked after he'd messaged her during our second year of marriage, when she'd come into the living room holding her phone like it was on fire and said, "Can you believe Greg just tried to reconnect? I blocked him. Idiot." And I believed her. Like a fool. I thought that moment had meant something. I thought it was her drawing a line around us, saying, "This is mine. We don't look back." But that was a lie, another performance. I pulled out my old laptop and tried a few guesses at her password. The third one worked. It was our son's birthday, the one thing I thought still connected us. And there it was. An inbox full of trash and newsletters, but hidden in a folder called Inbox Other was the full history. Messages, photos, emails that read like love letters stolen from a high school locker. I scrolled down, page after page, watching the story play out in reverse. They started reconnecting a year ago. Not 3 months, not 6, a year. Which meant she hadn't just grown distant. She'd been making room for him for longer than I had realized. She told one of her friends in an email, an idiot friend who forwarded it instead of deleting, that she'd bumped into him at the grocery store. That it had sparked something. That it felt like no time had passed. That he understood her in ways I never had. And I sat there reading every word like it was a sentence in my own obituary. Because this wasn't just infidelity. This wasn't just lust or a weak moment or a lapse in judgment. This was intentional. This was premeditated. This was a woman rebuilding the scaffolding of her life around the one man she had once called the one that got away, and acting like the life we built was just a placeholder until he came back. I found over 10,000 messages between them. I stopped counting after the first few thousand. I couldn't stomach it anymore. Some were harmless, others made me nauseous. Photos of meals, of his dog, of her legs in our bed with the caption, "Wish you were here." Little things, big things. Bits of their conversations where she told him that I never really got her, that I was emotionally unavailable, that I was too small for the dreams she still had. Dreams she never once shared with me. The man who had sacrificed weekends, late nights, and his own health to give her everything she ever asked for. The man who built her the garden she posted about on Facebook like it was her own little oasis, and who now saw pictures of Greg sitting there, feet up, drinking wine from our wedding glasses like he had earned the right to exist in a space I bled for. She said to him, in one message I'll never forget, "I wish I'd married you instead." That was the moment something inside me finally broke. Not a snap, not an explosion, but a fracture so deep I don't think it'll ever fully heal. Because it wasn't about Greg being better. It was about me never having been enough. In her mind, our whole marriage had been a detour, a mistake, a box she checked off until the right man came back into frame. I printed it all, not out of spite, out of necessity, Because if she wanted to rewrite history, I was going to keep the original draft in a fireproof safe. I filed it in a folder with a simple label, Truth. And in that folder went everything. The emails, the photos, the hotel bills, the messages about our sex life, where she mocked the routines I thought were born of love and comfort and security. I read those words over and over again. Words like predictable, boring, safe, like I was a walking apology for every bad decision she'd ever made. I wasn't her partner. I was her insurance policy. And when I stepped back and looked at the full picture, I realized something that hit me harder than anything else. It had never been about just him. Greg wasn't a one-time escape. He was her backup plan. The plan that was always waiting in her back pocket. The one she kept hidden while I bent over backwards to make her happy. He was the man she romanticized when I was too tired to talk, too busy to plan something special, too wrapped up in trying to keep us afloat financially to realize she wasn't treading water with me. She was swimming to shore behind my back. So no, I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. I wasn't just going to let her paint herself as the sad, misunderstood wife who outgrew her marriage. I was going to tell the truth. I was going to show it. If she wanted to turn our life into a lie, I was going to expose every damn line of fiction she'd written. And I wasn't just leaving her. I was going to take everything she tried to steal. The divorce papers came like a bullet in the mailbox. No warning, no conversation, no attempt at closure. Just a cold manila envelope from some overpriced lawyer she probably found on Instagram, slipped into my mailbox like an eviction notice from the life I helped build. The return address was in Albany. Of course it was. I imagine she smiled while signing her name on those forms, probably with her favorite pen. The one I bought her when she passed her dental receptionist certification, back when I thought small celebrations still mattered. The papers said things like irreconcilable differences and mutual agreement. And that's when I knew she was still trying to control the story. Even now, even after everything she'd done, she wanted it to look clean, polished, like two adults growing in different directions. But there was nothing clean about betrayal, and there was nothing mutual about being replaced. So I didn't sign. I refused, flat out. Called my own lawyer, a real son of a bitch named Craig who specialized in scorched earth, and told him to open the gates. I wanted everything combed through, everything examined, especially the money. And when that forensic accountant started digging, when the spreadsheets came back with red flags like a crime scene, I felt something in my chest crack open. Not grief this time, but validation. Because what he found wasn't just shady, it was deliberate. Carla had been draining our savings for nearly a year. Not in huge chunks, she was smarter than that. But in slow, calculated transfers. A couple thousand here, a few hundred there, spread out, disguised as utilities, medical expenses, business trips. But when you peeled back the layers, it was all going into an account I'd never seen before. One under her name only. And the total? Just shy of $30,000. That was supposed to be for emergencies, for the house, for our son's future. Not for her spa weekends and steak dinners with Greg. Not for lingerie I never saw and wine bottles I never tasted. When I confronted her with the evidence, not in private but in front of Craig and hers, in a neutral conference room that smelled like cheap coffee and desperation, she didn't flinch. She actually smirked. "It was mine too," she said, like she was daring me to react. And I did. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and said, "Say that again." She repeated it, proud, smug, indifferent. Craig's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. He knew what I knew. She'd just handed us the match we needed to burn her whole case to the ground. We took it to court. And let me tell you, Carla tried. Oh, she tried to spin it. Wore soft sweaters and minimal makeup. Put her hair up like some sad little martyr of a wife who just wanted peace. Told the judge that our marriage had eroded slowly, that she'd felt unseen, that Greg was just a friend who made her feel heard. The performance was worthy of an Oscar if the judge had been stupid. But he wasn't. He listened. He nodded. And then Craig stood up and laid out the evidence like a bomb. Emails, transactions, hotel receipts, voice memos. A full-on timeline that showed not a woman seeking freedom, but one plotting escape while still cashing my paycheck. And that's when she cracked. Not in front of me, not to my face, but under pressure. She shifted in her chair, her voice breaking, and said Greg had pressured her, that she'd been confused, that she was lonely and manipulated. And for a second, just a second, I saw the cracks in her perfect little mask. I thought maybe, just maybe, she might apologize, might own it. But no, because the real blow didn't come from her. It came from Judy, our daughter. 15 years old, smart as hell, strong-willed, and stubborn just like her mother. I'd hoped she'd see the truth, that she'd understand. But when I sat her down afterward, when I tried to explain why things were the way they were, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Mom deserves to be happy." And those 5 words gutted me more than anything Carla ever did. Not because I didn't want Carla to be happy, but because I had spent 15 years trying to make her happy, because I had bled for her happiness, and none of it mattered. To her, to our daughter, to the narrative they'd already started rewriting, I was the villain, the boring husband, the emotionally distant man who didn't get it. I became the footnote in my own family, a ghost in the home I built, the life I funded, the child I raised. I remember sitting alone in my truck that night after the court hearing, staring at the dashboard, the engine still running, headlights illuminating nothing but the wall in front of me. My hands were shaking, not with rage, not even sadness anymore, just emptiness. The kind you can't fill with beer or revenge or even justice. The kind that comes when you realize your life didn't just end, it was revised, and your pages were torn out completely. Carla thought the judge would go easy on her. She underestimated what 30 grand of documented theft looks like in a courtroom, especially when you smirk about it on video. The judge awarded me the house, partial custody of our son. Carla would get weekends, supervised for the first 3 months, and no right to the savings account. The judge looked her dead in the eye and said, "You made choices, Mrs. Jennings. You don't get to play victim and expect rewards." And still, she had the audacity to cry. Not because she regretted anything, but because she didn't win. After the court hearing, I thought that was it. I thought once the dust settled and the paperwork was signed, once the judge handed down his verdict and Carla walked out with that tight little jaw-clenched look of someone who'd just been told the game was over, that maybe, just maybe, I could start to breathe again. That the wreckage would stop smoking. That the silence would finally stop sounding like an accusation. But I was wrong. Because Carla wasn't done. Not by a long shot. At first, it started small. A text here and there, not about apologies or regrets, but things like, "Hey, do you know where the snow shovel is?" Or, "The plumber left his card on the counter, just FYI." Like we were roommates who'd had a disagreement and just needed space. No acknowledgement of what she'd done, no hint of shame. Just a casual foot back in the door, as if she was waiting for the house to forget it ever caught fire. I didn't answer the texts, deleted everyone. But they kept coming. Then she started showing up. Not every day. Not even every week. Just enough to keep her scent in the air, like mold you can't see but still feel. One day, I came home from work and found a tray of cookies on the kitchen counter. Chocolate chip, my son's favorite. Wrapped in foil like some peace offering left by a raccoon. I checked the security cameras, the ones I'd had installed the week after court. And there she was, letting herself in with the spare key I forgot was hidden behind the porch light. I watched the footage in silence. Carla, walking through my kitchen like she still belonged there, humming to herself while she set the cookies down like she was June Cleaver and this was still her kingdom. That night I changed the locks. She never asked for the new key, but she kept trying. Notes started showing up. Tucked into the screen door, slid under the mat, left on the fridge the one time I forgot to lock the side entrance before taking out the trash. Things like, "I still love this place. Remember when we planted the maple tree in the yard?" Greg didn't understand me either. It made my skin crawl, like I was being haunted by a ghost who refused to die. Greg, for all his shirt unbuttoned charm and finally free Instagram captions, didn't last. 2 months after court, I got a call from a mutual friend who still hadn't picked a side and had the decency to give me the heads up. Greg had dumped her, said she was too intense, said he wasn't ready for commitment, said he thought she'd be more fun. Turns out, he didn't want a partner, just a thrill. And once the thrill turned into reality, once the court hearings and child custody agreements started showing up in his mailbox, he bailed like a coward with a tan. And that's when she really started crawling. I came home one afternoon to find her sitting on the porch steps. No car in sight. She must have walked from wherever she parked, probably around the corner to make it look less desperate. She was holding a box of old photos. I recognized the one on top. Our first Christmas in the house, her in a red sweater, me with a Santa hat pulled over my ears, and our son, just 3 at the time, grinning like he'd never seen anything better. She looked up at me like nothing had happened, like the last year had been a bad dream. "I found these in the attic," she said, smiling soft. "Thought you might want them." I didn't take the box. I didn't sit down. I didn't say hello. I just stood there, keys in my hand, jaw tight enough to crack teeth. She sighed. "Jim, can we talk?" I laughed. Not a funny laugh, the kind that starts in your throat and tastes like rust. "Talk? About what? About how you nuked our life and now want to borrow my lighter to sort through the ashes?" She flinched, just a little. Then her voice turned syrupy. That fake softness she used to use on our son when she wanted something. "I made a mistake. Greg wasn't what I thought he'd be. But you? You were always solid. You were my rock, Jim." I stared at her. At the woman I once built a flower bed for with my hands bleeding from stone. At the woman I carried through her father's funeral. At the woman who used our bed to make memories with another man and then tried to scrub me from the frame. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was looking for access. "I'm not your rock," I said. "I'm the man you buried under one." She stood then, slowly, box still in hand. Her eyes glassy but dry. "You really won't even try." I didn't yell. I didn't rant. I didn't throw her words back at her or remind her of the 1,000 quiet ways I'd tried every single day before she ever reached for Greg's hand. I just looked at her, all hollow and tired and beautifully cruel in the way only truth can be. "I tried for 15 years, I said. "You gave up. I'm not picking it back up for you." She left the box on the steps. I burned the whole thing in the fire pit out back that night, every photo curling into black smoke, the paper memories twisting into ash. Not because I hated the past, but because I refused to let her use it as currency. The version of me she loved in those pictures? That man died the night I saw her kissing Greg in the driveway, and I wasn't going to resurrect him for her redemption arc. My son, bless him, saw it all clearer than most kids would. He didn't hate her, but he didn't let her off the hook either. She missed his birthday that year, flew to Vegas with Greg instead, came back with sunburn and cheap jewelry and a story about bad timing. She tried to bake him a cake a week later. He didn't eat it. She still calls sometimes, still sends letters, still drives by the house like she's trying to memorize it, like she's waiting for it to miss her. But I've already scrubbed every inch of her from these walls. She can haunt the sidewalk all she wants. But the door. It's been a year since Carla walked out of my life. A full circle of seasons. 52 weeks of days that were too long, and nights that were too quiet. 12 months of learning how to live in a house that used to smell like her shampoo and sound like her laughter. There's a strange rhythm to healing. It doesn't come all at once, and it doesn't ask for your permission. Some days, it trickles in like sunlight through a dusty window. Other days, it hits you like a punch when you realize the coffee still brews at 7 a.m., but no one's setting out 2 mugs anymore. But somehow, I've made it. And I'm not just talking about breathing. I'm talking about living. I painted the walls, got rid of that ugly beige she always insisted on, tore up the carpet she picked out at Home Depot, and replaced it with hardwood floors I installed myself. every plank nailed in with the same hands that once built her flower beds. I donated the couch where she used to curl up to text Greg while pretending to watch movies with me. Replaced the mattress, bought new pillows, even tossed the damn curtains. There isn't a single thread in this house that she touched anymore. It's mine now, and not just in name. I went back to school part-time. Something I'd always talked about but never did because life got in the way. Started volunteering at the local vet clinic on Saturdays, not because I needed something to do, but because it felt good to be useful again. Honest work. People who don't ask about your past just appreciate your presence. For once, I wasn't trying to hold a marriage together or carry a woman who didn't want to be held. I was just showing up for me. My son still comes by. We grill in the backyard sometimes. Watch old movies. He doesn't ask about his mother much anymore, and I don't bring her up. It's not avoidance. It's peace. We've carved out something new, something solid and quiet and real. The kind of connection that doesn't need to be explained or defended. I think he understands now. He doesn't see me as the man she tried to paint. He sees the truth. And that's enough. But then, 2 weeks ago, the letter came. Not a text, not an email. A handwritten letter, folded neatly and slipped into a plain white envelope with no return address, like she thought that would make it feel more sincere, more intimate. Like she wasn't the same woman who once stood in court and said she just wanted clarity before walking out to chase a fantasy. I didn't open it right away. Left it on the mantel for 3 days. Just stared at it every time I walked by like it was some ticking device waiting to explode. On the 4th night, I poured myself a drink, sat by the fire, and read it. It was exactly what you'd expect. She missed me. She was sorry. Greg had been a mistake. She hadn't realized what she had until it was gone. She was in therapy now. She was growing. She wanted to meet. No pressure, she wrote. Just coffee. Just to see where things stand. She said she hoped I was doing well, that she thought about me often, that she still remembered how I liked my eggs and how I used to sing off-key in the shower. And then, at the bottom, in handwriting that dipped slightly like it always did when she was trying to be soft, she wrote, "Maybe we could try again." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Try again. Like this was a song we could just rewind and play from the top. Like I hadn't lived through the dissonance, the shattered chorus, the silence after the music stopped. I didn't reply. I didn't write back. I didn't call or text or email. I took that letter, folded it once more, and dropped it straight into the fireplace. Watched the edges curl and blacken, watched the words she'd written dissolve into smoke, watched her last attempt at control rise up and vanish into the chimney. And as the flames ate her regrets, I realized something that I hadn't been able to admit until that moment. She didn't write that letter for me. She wrote it for her. She wanted to know if she still had a hold on me, if I'd come running when she whistled, if I'd still play the part of the man who forgives, forgets, and folds under the weight of nostalgia. But that man is gone. Burned down with the letter. And what's left is someone she can't reach anymore. Someone who knows that love without respect is just slow suffocation. Someone who finally understands that being chosen after the fact isn't a prize. It's an insult. She doesn't get to rewrite the ending just because she didn't like how the story turned out. She doesn't get to ask for a second match after she used the first one to burn the whole goddamn house down. So if she's still chasing happiness, let her chase it. Because I've already found something better. Peace. And this time, it's not something I have to share. Bye-bye.